It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorne. My next guest is Mike Mills. He wrote and directed 20th Century Women, which is up for Best Original Screenplay at the Academy Awards this year. Before he was a feature filmmaker, he was a short film and video director. He worked with bands like Blonde Redhead, Pulp, and Air. In 2010, he directed Beginners. It told the story of a fictionalized version of Mills' dad, who came out of the closet in his late 70s. 20th Century Women, which came out a few months ago, also draws from his family history. This time, he focuses on his mom. It tells the story of Dorothea, played by Annette Benning. She lives with her teenage son, Jamie, in a big house in Santa Barbara, California. To help make ends meet, they rent out a couple of the rooms. In this scene, the family's hosting a dinner party. One of the boarders, Abby, who's played by Greta Gerwig, just told everyone at the table that she's menstruating. And since it's a dinner party in 1979, the news goes over about as smoothly as you might expect.
Menstruates, and just say menstruation. It's not a big deal. So start saying it now. Menstruation.
Now.
Yes. Menstruation.
Menstruation.
Jamie, no.
You don't have to.
You're saying it like you're scared. Don't say it like you're scared.
Abby.
Say it like it's normal.
Menstruation.
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 Not bad. Julian, menstruation. You can say it right now.
I'm sorry.
Menstruation.
Just keep eye contact with me. Who are you looking at? Menstruation.
Menstruation.
Yeah, that's right. Menstruation. Charlie, you're quiet. Menstruation?
Menstruation?
No, not like a question. Menstruation.
Menstruation.
Now everybody say it together. Menstruation. Like gentle, happy, but casual. And
Menstruation.
Mike Mills, welcome to Bullseye. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
You were saying before we went in that you just had an MRI in your knee, and it actually connects with something that I wanted to ask you about, which was you're a middle-aged man. Do you still skateboard?
Do we have to discuss that?
Yeah. This show's all about real talk.
Do I still skateboard? In a very sort of gentlemanly way.
What does that mean?
When I grew up, I skateboarded and transitioned skate parks and vert pools and stuff like that, and then kind of graduated to mini ramps in my 30s and early 40s. And then now as a 50-year-old man, I occasionally, rarely, get on actually the boards from this film, and the wheels are softer wheels. It's a whole different kind of board design from the 70s. So it's very leisurely, and it's great for just street skating. So I'm bust out my best sort of fake Z-Town surf style carving methods.
You're really excited about that. Very sincerely.
Yeah. Skating was huge for me. Skating was my first, it's my first real passion. Turned me on to punk music, turned me onto that whole subculture that kind of was the beginning of me in lots of ways, and really gave me so much. And I was, a competitive skateboarder. I was like a proletariat skateboarder, I wasn't outstanding. I was good enough to compete. And it's very creative when you're making up your runs. It's very physical. It's very euphoric. So I have a lot of fond muscle memory of it.
What was your goal? What did you want? Did you just want to pass time with friends?
Professional skateboarder. And I wanted to either be a professional skateboarder or start my own company. Already then, it was such a DIY culture, and it was kind of just embedded in the oxygen of the whole thing that, I'm 13 now, but I'm going to own a skate company soon, and that's going to be my future, and I'm going to tour and stuff and be on a team. That was the basic plan. I grew up with these Depression-era people who are incredibly productive and industrial, and they try to turn everything into a opportunity for a career or something like that. So I guess I grew up in that cloud. But my friends were equally obsessive, and on rainy days we made cardboard skateboard pools and did fingerboarding. We were obsessed.
Did you think of yourself as being as productive as your parents, who were obsessed with being productive and practical?
Never. Because, can we have parents like that my parents are teenagers during the Depression, turn 18 when World War II started, all their friends and them get drafted. That's a different life. And they have an intensity that was much more than me. And maybe I kind of, as I grew older, actually kind of became more like them. But as a kid and a teenager, I'm like, oh crap, these people are so intense and never take a break, and they always do it the hardest way possible and never complain, and like it's kind of endless wave of self-sacrifice.
Did you feel like when you were doing something creative, even if it was something like skateboarding, that you had to have like an idea of how that was self-sufficient?
Yeah.
How it was, how it could support itself and be in a way a job?
But in a completely hegemonic way. Like my mom didn't have to say one word for me to have internalized that whole idea. My dad is an art historian, museum director. My mom is like a contractor, entrepreneurial person, but they're both really creative people and kind of frustrated artists. And my mom was a pilot and really wanted to be more of a pilot. And from the first time I started skateboarding, she was always like, it's like flying, you know? So she was always really into it. And she would come to all the parks. She would drive me to all the contests, you know, and watch and know the names of the tricks and be very pro-risk. She was like the most pro-risk mom I ever met. And so they were integrated into it. They weren't like poo-pooing it. They're like, oh, you're into something and you're super obsessed. Go for it. And, you know, as long as I was doing something, they're totally down with that. The thing they weren't down with, it was like resting or watching TV.
It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorne. My guest, Mike Mills, wrote and directed the film 20th Century Women. It's up for an Academy Award. 20th Century Women is largely about Annette Benning's character. So she's even though she's, I guess you would say that the boy is the main character because in some ways he's the connecting tissue. He's by no means the protagonist of the movie. Like he is just kind of the thing that everything else moves around.
I wouldn't even say he's the main character, personally.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of like a planetary situation, and that's probably the sun, so everything rotates around her. But, you know, Greta and Elle have a lot of screen time, and they have their own plot lines, you know, and it was a really strange relational film to structure, to write, to edit. It barely holds together.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
to this day.
I
and
definitely
kind of by design. But I like films that do that. I like films that like push at their seams so hard that there's something really exciting about that. And I really wanted to, like, I have all the different characters narrate at different times. I break all the rules of protagonism. Is that a word? Let's make it a word.
Sure.
Protagonism.
Was there a time maybe after you made your first or second movie that you thought, maybe I should focus on having my protagonist save the cat and then have them head out of the house on a journey?
Like causality.
Yeah, just like have a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Because that is immensely satisfying. Like, it's one of the reasons it works is because it's in like Gilgamesh and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I try a lot. And it just kind of makes my brain faint and fall over. Like, I'm not wired that way. I have like a disability with that. And also, I just don't believe it. I don't enjoy it as a viewer or a reader. I don't like a lot of transformation in my character, especially in a film. Like in a novel, yeah, because a novel, it's so much easier to have an expansive amount of time. In film, you are more physical and real, and I don't buy it when epiphanies happen and large transformations happen. I barely buy it in real life. You know, I do believe it does happen in real life, but in such unpredictable and slow motion ways that it's hard to concretize, you know, which films love doing, and causality and all the plot tricks, which almost every film does, of like, you know, I start off fill in the blank, homophobic, scared of society, not available to have relationships. I meet X, external obstacle person, who challenges me to face that thing. I do things that I think are going to fix the problem. Everything I do actually makes me further away from fixing the problem. I finally have to transform into a place where I see it anew and I'm transformed and better, and come with me, audience, on this journey. That makes me go to sleep. You know, like
For real though, because like Indiana Jones is kind of dope.
I don't know.
That's
not
a great
for me.
movie. It's super
I
fun.
like those.
E.T. is a really cool movie.
I'm not into like car chases, mousetraps, things like that. I mean, sort of overstating it. I love like Casablanca. Howard Hawks. I love lots of movies that have plots, for sure.
So
But
what is
often
it
it's
like?
not
What's
the plot.
what is it? What's the difference, or what's the thing that you love about Casablanca?
It's not the plot. The plot's just like, or like Woody Allen movies. There's some plot, but it's not why you watch the movie. It's not really it's not what's valuable about it as a viewer.
It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorne. My guest is Mike Mills. He's a writer and director. He's done dozens of music videos, many commercials, and he also wrote and directed the film 20th Century Women. It seems like from watching 20th Century Women that, as I was watching it, I remember having this thought, which was like, man, look at that bedspread. Like look at that blanket there. Like that's really something. That really feels like something. And then I heard that blanket came from your parents' house. And I thought, oh, okay. Part of what it's about is creating a feeling of, I don't know, I guess verisimilitude or something that is about an accretion of these things that are distinctive in our lives, like the kinds of things that stick out in memory.
My last movie, Beginners, is really a lot about what you just said, like the accretion of things that become memories, that become your understanding of your life and your understanding of other people. So that's a bit in this film, not as distinctly. And that bedspread made an appearance in both movies. It's my parents' bedspread from Madagascar, and I grew up with it. And I do kind of believe in magic in a way. There's objects can hold a lot of history and meaning and connection. And that's wearing my mom's jewelry, those little bits of my parents' furniture all through that movie, and paintings on the walls and stuff. And because also this ensemble of objects, this little universe of objects, is all my parents' stuff, and their collection represents their thinking in a way. So if I have just not one object, but a collection of objects, it does sort of have a geometric effect, and it's very subtle, but you kind of get this worldview via just the mise en scene, right?
Well, that element of movies, the mise en scène, the elements of the scene, the things that you see in the frame, tends to have a feeling of, and it's fine because it's like this partly on purpose, but it has the feeling of a sitcom set, which is to say that it's only after you've watched 15 episodes of a sitcom that you realize that they're shooting it on the same set that they shot another sitcom that you've seen 50 episodes of, right? And it's because that those elements are built to be transparent, to foreground the actors talking to each other and the jokes that they're making.
Right.
And, to just have that amount of specificity in the frame. I mean, I was thinking of a painting that I saw in the back behind I think, dinner table in the movie.
Yeah, that's one painting I grew up with.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful Howard Hack painting of flowers, like a dried.
Yeah, like I looking at that painting and thinking, look at that painting. That looks like a painting in a house, not like a stand-in for all paintings in all
which
houses.
often happens in films because you're renting things from prop houses and all that. Well, I really believe in all that. It's not just specificity in the art direction, it's specificity in like characters' choices, characters' biographies, things they say. I definitely believe that unexplained, highly specific things that are drawn from life that are kind of even mysteries to me as a writer. Like, why am I gravitating toward this? I'm not sure. Why do I want to show that my mom read Watership Down and carved wood rabbits? I'm not totally sure. I couldn't defend it with Mr. McKee.
That rabbit's amazing.
But my mom really carved it too. So I feel like there is a lot of embedded truthiness, let's say. Let's have another awesome word. And when you see these things, or when you even moments of the biographies, they're untidy for story. The film features biographies of the three female characters. And there's lots of details and things that happen to them that I report that are, like I said, they're just not great for dramaturgy or story. But I find them incredibly effective at making the audience believe in the authenticity of the story and the characters, and therefore investing in them, and just really interesting, often in their mystery. Like, why am I looking at these Salem cigarettes? Why is it important that he's showing me that the mom wore Birkenstocks? But I do feel like there is a small buildup of micro points that speak to a much larger picture, and I really like that trick.
How do you collect all those pieces? I mean, are you able to pour them out or as needed, or do you have to grab them as they fly through your mind?
Well, these
memory?
last two films, are based on real people, right? So the first part of the process is just kind of remembering everything I can. And that goes on forever, and I do it on these little 5x7 cards. And I have no judgment. I don't care if it like relates to a story or not. I'm actually excited if it seems like completely impossible to put in a movie. And but if it like has this truthiness vibe to it, or just like what is the word? Like it pulls you in a little bit in a way that you can't describe, and you just know that it has to be true. And not that true is such a real word, but like you just doesn't feel like a story. One thing I read a lot when I'm writing is Bukowski's Mockingbird, Wish Me Luck. And I'm not really into Bukowski's whole drunkenness and misogyny and all that stuff. But he's an amazing sort of William Carlos Williams level concretist, and just writing about the smallest thing and showing how like really evocative and grippy these things can be. And he's just amazing at it. And I feel like when I read him like every morning before I start writing, it just attunes you to like these little details. And then, so I accrue all these things from my memory. I write them all down, and that goes on for months to like a year. And then I go through and just start picking stuff and like trying to see how I could put these kind of like collage pieces together. But I like to invent as little as I possibly can in ways.
Everybody in the movie, every actor in the movie looks and feels of their age. You have all these different ages represented in the movie. Annette Benning is playing the 55-ish-year-old mother here, a woman with a teenager who had him late. There's these two boarders who are respectively kind of a young adult, like a 20-something, and a young middle-aged person. Yeah. And there's a kid, and the kid who's 15 was played by an actor who I think when you cast him was 14. Was it a choice that you made that you wanted these people to not be a representation of the ages they were, but actually
be?
Yeah,
for sure. And same thing with the beginners too. It was so key that Christopher was, he's younger, but wasn't he like 80 when we shot that? So he's like pretty close. And it really helped also because Christopher was really from close to the right era, like his actual birth, which gave him such access to the character. So if you're the right age, it so feeds the piece. And then I guess because my films seem to my surprise, be about families. Families are so much about age in a weird way, or where you are developmentally in the life spectrum, and then the interrelation of those different points, and then the worldview that's so different from those different points. And therein lies actually a good drama. Like therein lies conflict and things that can butt up against each other and create energy, right? And I was really, obviously, titling it 20th Century Women, I was really interested in having different sort of, and all the women are strong, all the women are feminist by energy, if not also by politics, right? But they're different forms of feminism that are sort of historically determined. So I'm really interested in age. I'm really interested in where you are in history,
let's play another clip from 20th Century Women, because there is a clip that we have that really illustrates that beautifully. So Jamie, who's the teenager in the family, has gotten from the young adult female boarder in the house some books of feminism.
Second wave. She's a classic second wave feminist.
Yeah, and he's kind of into them. I mean, especially for a 15-year-old boy.
It's rad.
And yeah, it is pretty neat. And he has, like, among other things, read to his mother part of this essay about the challenges of being a middle-aged woman.
It's amazing Zoe Moss essay called "It Hurts to Be Alive and Obsolete."
And she does, like, he thinks this is going to be a great, that he finally understands his mom, which is one of the big things that he's trying to do in this whole movie. Not coincidentally, one of the big things you seem to have been doing by making this movie over the course of 6 years.
I never read an essay like this to my mom, but I was like exposed to therapy, exposed to different things, and I was always trying to learn what my mom felt about stuff, and that was like the number one no thing you can possibly do. So it comes partly out of like real memories, real experience, but I have to say I am using like Robert McKee tools here, because it's a classic thing of like, I'm going to fix the problem by doing this thing. And when I do it, it just makes me farther away from the problem than I ever realized. So I do actually have to send a shout out to Robert McKee, who taught me that trick in that book Story. And I totally consciously applied it here. Like, oh, I could do that with my memory.
So, so this is a scene that's happened after that.
I mean, I appreciate you trying to help. I do. I just think you're taking it too far. This stuff with, the women's movement, I respect, but it's complicated, and I think it's too much for him.
I don't know what it is that you're talking about.
Okay, he's a 15-year-old boy.
I know.
You're giving him hardcore feminism,
but he really loves it, and it's helping him.
Helping him what?
It's helping him become a man. What you were talking about.
Learning
it's like,
about a female orgasm is helping him be a man.
Well, what man do you know that cares anything about that?
Look,
I mean, that's a miracle.
But he's a high school kid, okay? It's too much. I'm telling you.
It's kind of an intense thing, that defense of her defense of her own emotional space is so complete.
Something I really love to do that this is pointing out is I'm using real historical texts. Those are real essays from Sisterhood is Powerful. And the one that they're referring to in this conversation is The Politics of Orgasm, which if I was 15 and opened up that book, I would go for that essay,
Yeah.
And he reads it, and it really impacts his life. There's several scenes after that where you see it like ricochet through his life. There's many times in this movie where I'm taking real cultural events, texts. It could be Jimmy Carter's speech, could be this book, and it's actually creating my plot points for me. It's creating my conflict for me. It's creating my story for me. But I'm creating out of like memory-based characters and these cultural moments. And that was real exciting for me. It was something I had to figure out how to do as I was writing this. Like, how can I put all this together?
I wonder if, you made your living for quite a while directing commercials. And like one of the things about directing a commercial is if you're really good at it, the essential things that you can be good at are either telling a story in 30 seconds that is compelling and satisfying, which is an insanely difficult thing to do in and of itself, or generating a really clear emotion in the space of 30 seconds, or maybe even 20 seconds or 15 seconds, depending on what the messaging and at some point somebody has to say, get an American Express card to change buying patterns, which is the purpose of commercials, the non-artistic purpose of commercials. And I wonder what you learned from doing that and how you think it affects work that you're doing that has, in some ways the opposite the objective in making a commercial is to get people to buy something or to change their consumer behaviors in some way.
Kind of. The ads that I do, I do one or two a year. I get to be very choosy, and in the ad world, I've had this lucky thing of nailing it the first time. So it's like I got an Oscar in my first run.
What was the first one?
I did these Nike ads that it wasn't like I got an Oscar, but it really helps.
Was it the Larry Johnson Grandmama ads?
No,
those were great.
So I've had a very lucky run with the ad thing, and if you do these kind of anthem spots, you do these sort of general brand spots. I never do ads with products in them. It's too reductive, and I tend to do these kind of vague.
If you do an ad with
statements.
products in it, you're reducing products to products.
As a filmmaker, you just shy away from it because ads has been, yes, how I make money, also how I get to practice being a director. And I get to wait for ones that are kind of like the films I'm making and practice my craft because, like I said, I went to art school and I want to practice, But the thing that more than ads is doing music videos is how I really started. And music videos, I think, are even more like that because you really write them. Ads, you kind of get aboard. You get sort of a script, and it's your interpretation of it. Videos, it's all you. You're writing it, and you figure out a lot about basically how to make something that works in 3 minutes, as an enjoyable event. So call that story, call that whatever you want to call it.
Can you give me an example of how you, when you were getting started, solved that problem of having a rigorous illustration that also fulfilled the mission of in some way illustrating or illuminating a song?
Well, so again, and then when I did videos, I rarely, almost never, did ones with a band playing. So it's always a story as in a chance to make more of a little film. I would put the music on, listen to it on loop all day long. At the beginning, you have bad, obvious ideas. An hour or two or three in, you start to have weirder ideas, which are totally connected in some way, but not like one-to-one. That's what the space I was going for. So I did one, there was a song, very grand, dramatic song, romantic, and I invented weirdly in this kind of process of just kind of fuging out. It was a stuffed animal, a world of stuffed animals, and one decided to kill himself. And at the beginning, he kills himself, and then all through the video, you have kind of like documentary interviews with all the other animals about his life and why they think he killed himself. So it's a little bit Rashomon, it's a little bit whatever, you have like these flashbacks. And that was for me like watching Rashomon for the first time and watching a lot of the films for the first time at Kim's Video in New York and sort of figuring out what film was about and trying things out, you know? So it was a whole idea. You never saw the band. It was just like this little short film.
Well, Mike Mills, I am so grateful that you took all this time to come Beyond Bullseye. It was really nice to get to meet you, and I really appreciated it. A really beautiful film.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being the rare filmmaker who would never utter the phrase, at the end of the day, I'm just a storyteller.
At the end of the day, I'm just an essayist.
Thank you so much, Mike. Mike Mills. His film 20th Century Women is playing now in select theaters.